have a question for all of you watching. Is $10,000 worth more than a person's dignity and years of built-up trust? I always considered my girlfriend, Maya, a total genius. The kind of girl who could solve any problem, and whose mind worked faster than a high-end computer. But when she used that very same intellect to orchestrate a massive betrayal against me, my entire world flipped upside down. Imagine the person you're planning a future with, the one you want to marry, is spinning a web of lies behind your back so deep it makes your skin crawl. I caught her red-handed, and the excuse she gave me broke something inside of me that can never be fixed. Was I wrong for stripping everything away from her in the end? Tell me if you would have shown mercy, or if you would have done exactly what I did to show her the reality of her choices. This isn't just a story about cheating. It's about a smart girl who used her brilliance to burn down her own home. And I want you to tell me if the punishment fit the crime. Our story began about 2 years ago when I met Maya at a university library. I was immediately captivated by her personality. She wasn't just beautiful. She had a depth to her that was rare. She was getting her master's in finance and always used to say that in this world, the only people who succeed are the ones who stay 2 steps ahead of the system. At the time, I thought that was just ambition and passion, and I admired her drive. I never dreamed that one day I would become part of the system she was trying to bypass. Our relationship felt perfect, or at least that's what I let myself believe. As a software developer, I made a very comfortable living, and we had decided to save up for a house and get married by next year. I trusted her with everything, even giving her full access to our joint savings account, because I truly believed we were a team. We spent our weekends touring open houses, talking about where the nursery would go and what color to paint the kitchen. Every time she looked at me with those bright, intelligent eyes, I felt like the luckiest guy on earth. She would help me optimize my tax filings and give me advice on my investment portfolio that was so precise it almost felt like she had a crystal ball. I bragged about her to my friends, calling her my secret weapon. I didn't realize that a weapon is dangerous no matter who is holding it, and eventually, she would turn that edge toward me. I remember one specific night we sat on the balcony, sharing a bottle of wine, and she started talking about the fragility of the middle class. She argued that people who just work 9 to 5 are slaves to a failing structure, and that to truly be free, one had to find the glitches in the world's financial matrix. I laughed it off as academic posturing, the kind of deep talk you have when you're young and ambitious. I even agreed with her to some extent, not realizing that for Maya, these weren't just theories, they were her operating instructions. She was already looking for the glitches in our own relationship. She began taking frequent business trips for her consulting firm, usually over weekends. She would send me photos of hotel lobbies and conference rooms, but looking back now with a coder's eye, I realized the metadata on those photos was either missing or scrubbed. I was so blinded by love that I didn't even check. I was just happy she was moving up in the world. I would spend those weekends alone, working on my own projects, thinking I was building a castle for us. I'd buy her favorite flowers for her return, clean the whole apartment, and have her favorite meal ready. I was the textbook definition of a supportive partner, while she was the textbook definition of a parasite. Over the last few months, however, Maya's behavior started to shift in subtle but chilling ways. She started staying out late, and would come home claiming she was just exhausted from work at the high-end consulting firm she had recently joined. Whenever I glanced at her phone, she would immediately flip it over or lock the screen with a speed that felt rehearsed. One afternoon, I noticed that $5,000 were missing from our joint account. When I confronted her, she was eerily calm and told me she had sent the money for her mother's emergency medical treatment. I didn't question it because her mother had a history of health issues, but a seed of doubt was planted. A few days later, I called her mother to check in, only to find out she was perfectly healthy and hadn't requested a single cent. In fact, her mother mentioned that Maya hadn't even called her in 3 weeks. My heart sank into my stomach. Maya was lying to me, but I couldn't understand why. She didn't have any expensive hobbies, or so I thought. I started paying closer attention to the little things. The way she would take calls in the bathroom with the shower running, the new designer accessories that suddenly appeared in her closet which she claimed were knockoffs from a street market. I found a receipt for one of those knockoffs, hidden in an old shoebox. It was a $3,000 handbag. The realization that she was actively lying about her lifestyle while draining our shared future hit me like a physical blow. She was smart enough to wipe her digital footprints, using encrypted messaging apps and private browsers, but she forgot one crucial detail. I'm a coder. This is what I do for a living. I noticed her behavior on our home network was erratic. She was accessing certain IP addresses that were flagged for high-risk financial transactions. I ran a recovery script on her old laptop that she thought was broken to pull up deleted messages and cache data. And what I found left me absolutely speechless. She was deeply involved in an online betting and crypto scam, but she wasn't just a victim. She was a recruiter, a high-level closer for a group that preyed on desperate people. She was convincing people to invest their life savings while she took a massive commission on the back end. I saw spreadsheets, meticulously organized spreadsheets, detailing how much she had squeezed out of every mark. She had a column for vulnerabilities where she noted things like recent widow, struggling student, or unemployed father. It was sickening. She was a predator, and her intelligence was the claws she used to tear people's lives apart. But the worst part was her next target, me. She had drafted a fake investment prospectus, complete with forged legal documents and a convincing UI for a fake app, just to convince me to invest $10,000 of my personal savings. She claimed it would be the final down payment for our dream house. In reality, she needed that $10,000 to pay off her own mounting debts to some very dangerous people who were tired of waiting for their cut of the scam. She had even written out scripts for herself on how to react if I asked too many questions. One note specifically read, "If he asks for the tax IDs, cry about the stress of the house hunt, and say you feel like he doesn't trust your expertise." Reading those notes was like reading a manual on how to manipulate my own heart. Standing before me wasn't the woman I loved, but a professional con artist who saw me as nothing more than a final payout. I was horrified that someone could be so cold-blooded toward the person they claimed to love. I spent nights lying awake next to her, watching her sleep peacefully, wondering how a person could be so hollow inside while appearing so full of life on the outside. Every "I love you" she whispered felt like a drop of poison in my ear. I have to stop here and ask you guys something. At that moment, I was so broken that I just wanted to pack my bags and disappear. I thought about just leaving a note and never looking back. But on the other hand, my anger was boiling over. I felt like a fool, but more than that, I felt a deep sense of justice calling out. These people she scammed, the widows and the students, they didn't have the skills to fight back. But I did. Imagine your partner is about to rob you of $10,000. What would you do? Would you call the police immediately, or would you try to give them one last chance to tell the truth? Would you try to save them from themselves, or would you let the fire they started consume them? Before I tell you how I executed my revenge, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. I need to know if my reaction was justified or if I went too far. I decided to set a trap that would utilize the very tools she thought she had mastered. I told Maya that I had $10,000 in cash from a side project I had just finished. The greedy glint in her eyes made me feel physically sick. It was a look I had never seen before, a predator eyeing its prey. She immediately shifted into her persuasion mode, telling me, "Babe, we should put this into that crypto scheme I mentioned. It'll double in a month. We could buy the house by Christmas." I played along perfectly, acting excited and naive. I even showed her a fake bank draft I had created to prove the transfer was ready. But while she was celebrating her win and planning her escape, I was busy behind the scenes. I spent the next 48 hours barely sleeping, my eyes bloodshot from staring at code and documents. I backed up every single bit of incriminating data from her devices, emails, chat logs, voice recordings she'd made of her victims, and the fraudulent spreadsheets. I didn't just go to the police. I went to the source. I found the contact info for the very clients she had been scamming and sent them a massive data dump showing exactly where their money had gone and how she had mocked them in her private notes. I wanted them to have the evidence they needed to file a class action lawsuit. I also used my access to her accounts to claw back the $5,000 she had stolen from our joint savings by rerouting the commission payments she had hidden in a burner account. I moved every penny into a private account she couldn't touch. I didn't stop there. I contacted the dangerous people she owed money to, using an anonymous account, and told them exactly where her real hidden assets were, which were none, because I had just drained them. I was essentially burning her entire world down while she was upstairs picking out wedding dresses online. It felt like a surgical strike. I was dismantling her life piece by piece, ensuring that by the time I was done, she wouldn't have a single bridge left to cross. The psychological toll of pretending everything was okay while I was dismantling her life was immense. I watched her cook dinner for me, kissing my cheek and telling me how much she loved me, all while knowing she was planning to leave me in a financial hole the moment that money hit her account. I had to look her in the eyes and smile back, pretending I didn't see the monster behind the mask. The morning of the big transfer, I woke up early. I watched the sun rise and felt a cold clarity I'd never experienced. She woke up with a huge smile, thinking she had finally fleeced me. She even made me breakfast, being extra affectionate, talking about how lucky we were to have found each other. But as soon as she checked her phone, the color drained from her face. She was receiving dozens of threatening messages and calls from the people she had cheated. Her social media was being flooded with scammer alerts. I had even sent the evidence to her consulting firm, and a termination of employment email was sitting at the top of her inbox. She started screaming, "What is this? What did you do?" I sat there calmly sipping my coffee, watching her crumble. I looked her dead in the eye and said, "I did exactly what you taught me, Maya. You thought you were the smartest person in the room, but you forgot you were living with a software engineer who sees every move you make. I know about the 10,000, I know about your mother's fake illness, and I know about every person you've robbed. You didn't just break my heart, Maya. You broke your own future." She broke down in tears, falling to her knees and begging for forgiveness. She tried the old routine, claiming she did it for us, that the people she scammed were bad people anyway, and that she just wanted to get us ahead in life. She even tried to hug my legs, sobbing about how she was scared and lost. It was just another scripted lie, a desperate attempt to manipulate me one last time. But I was done being a character in her play. I had already packed her bags and left them by the door while she was asleep. I kicked her out that morning without a second thought. She tried to refuse to leave, but I reminded her that the lease was in my name, and that the police would be more than happy to come pick her up given the files I had just sent to the Financial Crimes Unit. She left with no money, no reputation, no job, and no home. I watched her drag her suitcases down the hallway, her genius brain probably already trying to figure out her next scam. But this time, the world was onto her. I heard later that the authorities caught up with her regarding the fraudulent investments she was running, and she's currently facing years of legal battles that she can't afford to fight. Her parents have disowned her after finding out about the medical emergency lie. She's essentially a ghost now, haunting the digital world she tried to exploit. This experience taught me a hard lesson. Having a brilliant mind is a gift, but without integrity, it's just a tool for self-destruction. Maya traded a priceless, loving relationship for a shot at $10,000. And in the end, she lost everything. She tried to play the system, but the system, and the person who loved her, played her back. I sometimes wonder if she ever feels guilty, or if she's just mad she got caught. I think I know the answer. People like Maya don't feel remorse, they only feel the sting of defeat. Today, I don't know where she is, and quite frankly, I don't care. I finally have my peace of mind back, and my bank account is whole again. I've changed the locks, scrubbed my devices, and started over. It's a quiet life, but it's an honest one. Never trust someone so blindly that you stop keeping your eyes open. If you think I did the right thing by taking everything back and exposing her, then please hit the like button on this video. Subscribe to the channel so I can keep bringing you these shocking real-life stories about when being too smart goes horribly wrong. Have you ever been betrayed by someone you thought was a genius? Or do you think I was too cruel by involving her dangerous creditors? Share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. I read every single one of them. I'll see you all in the next story.